Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So this week we're heading to Amonkhet Standard for a deck I'm really excited about. This is a deck I've been excited about since we got our spoilers for Amonkhet, and this is white-black Aristocats. Basically a white-black Aristocrats deck with some cat synergies thrown in, and this one is super sweet. I'm super excited for it. It's a ton of fun. It's pretty competitive. As you can see, 95 bucks in the paper world, 54 ticks on Magic Online, so not a bad price for a really sweet deck. A quick reminder before we break down white-black Aristocats, if you enjoy this deck and you enjoy Budget Magic in general, it would be awesome of you if you could take a second, click that subscribe button. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk white-black Aristocats, and basically kind of the key synergy of this deck is Anointed Procession and Hidden Stockpile, and this synergy is kind of well known. While I did build this deck, I think Wedge from the Manosaurus posted a deck tech that took advantage of this synergy, and it looks pretty janky, but it's actually super strong. You use Hidden Stockpile as a sack outlet, and if you sack something, or otherwise trigger Revolt, you get a 1/1 servo at the end of your turn. You also get to scry when you sack something, which lets you kind of cycle through your deck, get useless lands out of the way, find more action. What we want to get to, though, is Hidden Stockpile, or even more than one Hidden Stockpile, with Anointed Procession, or more than one Anointed Procession. If we have one Hidden Stockpile and one Anointed Procession, we can sack our servo to Hidden Stockpile, scry, improve our draw for the next turn, and then at our end step, we're going to get 2 servos. Then the next turn, we can do the same thing, sack, scry, and then we get 2 more servos. So it kind of just spirals out of control. If we add in another Hidden Stockpile, we get 2 times 2, so we're getting 4 servos for every one that we sacrifice. If we have more Anointed Processions, the same way. So eventually we get to the point where we just overwhelm our opponent with these servo tokens, and people aren't really prepared to deal with this. Why, there's a few ways of interacting with enchantments. People have Anguish Unmaking sometimes, cast out. A lot of the focus sideboard hate is for artifacts, and a lot of the good artifact destruction spells are not naturalizes. They're not artifact or enchantment. They're just focused on artifacts, which means some decks just have a really hard time dealing with this setup. Plus, we make so many tokens if our opponent's playing Green-Black Delirium, or Zombies, or any sort of like grindy, ground-based deck, we can just chump block forever with this ever-increasing number of servo tokens, and some decks just can't beat it. We just generate so much repeated value with this combo. So the rest of the deck, we have synergies with Anointed Procession, and some synergies with our other stuff. For Anointed Procession, we have Sacred Cat, and this is where we get the Aristocat name. So we play this as a 1/1 for 1. It's not that exciting. It has lifelink, it can chump, it comes back from the graveyard. However, in the late game, when we embalm it and we have Anointed Procession, we're getting 2 1/1 lifelink cat tokens for only a single mana, which is actually really strong. And if we have more Anointed Processions, it gets even crazier. Doomed Dissenter, kind of the same way. It comes back as a 2/2 zombie when it dies, and that zombie is a token, so if we have an Anointed Procession, we're getting 2/2 zombies, and this also gives us lots of sacrifice fodder. That's the other upside of this. We can sacrifice Sacred Cat 2 times, because we can sacrifice it once, embalm it, sacrifice it again. Doomed Dissenter, 2 sacrifices. Sram's Expertise makes a ton of tokens with Anointed Procession, and lets us play something for free, which gives us the ability to do some cool tricks where we play it, and also slam a sacrifice outlet like Hidden Stockpile, or Yahenni, Ali, Bontu. All those cards can be cast for free, so we can immediately start sacking the servo tokens to trigger Hidden Stockpile to get more servo tokens. It just really spirals out of control quickly. So, along with Hidden Stockpile, we have some backup sacrifice stuff. Yahenni is pretty good. The upside of Yahenni is it's a free sacrifice outlet. It's our only free sacrifice outlet, which lets us do some really powerful things with our Zulaport Cutthroat that we'll talk about in a minute. Aili, Eternal Pilgrim, is a 2-drop. It has Death Touch, so it can trade up with like a Verdurous Gearhulk or something huge as the game goes along. In theory, we can get to the Vindicate mode if we sacrifice enough stuff, but that doesn't happen that often. Bontu is really strong in this deck. We can sack stuff very easily. We have tons of stuff to sack, and then we have a 4/6 Menace, which is actually a really good threat. It closes out the game quickly, it's hard to deal with, and it's kind of expensive, but it is a backup sacrifice outlet that can drain our opponent out of the game. So Zulaport Cutthroat is kind of our big finisher. Why we win a lot of games by just overwhelming our opponent with value, just making so many more creatures and tokens than they have that we can just attack them down with all of our 1/1 servos. We can also get the combo kill with Zulaport Cutthroat. So what we're looking at here is something like getting down our Anointed Procession, making a bunch of servos with our hidden stockpiles and our other embalmed creatures and all that stuff. So we get a bunch of stuff on the battlefield. Eventually we can like Strom's Expertise, which with Anointed Procession makes 6 servos with 2 Anointed Processions. I don't even know, like a ton of servos. And then we can play our Yahenni for free. If we have a Zulaport Cutthroat out, we just immediately sacrifice our entire board, drain our opponent's entire life total away. So that's the big upside of Yahenni. The body's not big, it's our only free sacrifice outlet that lets us kind of combo off with Zulaport Cutthroat. The rest of the deck, we just have a bit of removal in Stasis Snare and Cast Out. Cast Out is actually kind of clunky in our deck. We have a lot of 4-mana stuff, so that's why we have more Stasis Snares. Obnixilus is mostly there to fight control decks as a repeatable card advantage engine, like our own version of Phyrexian Arena, basically, that has the upside of sometimes killing stuff. Mana base, Westvale Abbey is a huge one. It's super easy for us to get enough tokens with our deck to be able to flip around, get a 9/7, it lifelinks, it's hard to kill, it just beats our opponent into oblivion really quickly, and gets us back from the brink of dying thanks to the lifelink. Rest of the mana base, some Concealed Courtyards, Shambling Vent as a creature land, Forsaken Sanctuary, 1 Evolving Wilds, and then we have some basic lands. As far as the sideboard, we have a ton of stuff to fight control and combo. That's kind of the focus of our sideboard. With this deck, we're not especially worried about creature decks because we can just make so many chump blockers. If our opponent's beating us in the air, that's another concern, but a lot of the ground-based creature decks where people are trying to get there with, I don't know, Grim Flayers and Ishkanas and Toolcraft Exemplars, we just make so many creatures and they keep coming and they keep coming and it's so repeatable that we're not really scared of them. So our focus is on making sure we don't die to Aetherworks Marvel, we don't die to control decks with Torrential Gearhulk, stuff like that. So Dispossesses, gets rid of Torrential Gearhulk, gets rid of Aetherworks Marvel, 2 really good targets. Lost Legacy kind of does the same thing for non-artifacts. Lay Bare the Heart and Pick the Brain let us pick apart our opponent's hand. We can actually get Delirium turned on thanks to all of our sack outlets. It's not that hard that we can sack our Evolving Wilds, get that in the graveyard, sack a creature, cycle a Cast Out, get another sorcery of some kind or instant in there, and we're able to actually pick the brain and get rid of all of something. But it's fine just as a 3-mana Thoughtseize that exiles. And then we have some more removal, so there is a bit of aggro stuff as well. Cast Out and Fumigate gives us more ways to deal with our opponent's stuff. Cast Out can get Gideons, Planeswalkers, Fumigate clears the board, and once we have our setup going, we don't really mind fumigating because it's just, our stuff is so repeatable. When we have Anointed Procession and our Hidden Stockpile, even if our stuff dies, we're just going to rebuild super quickly. We got Embalmed stuff, we have creatures that makes tokens when they die, our God's indestructible, Yahenni's indestructible, so Fumigate's not actually that detrimental to us. Forsake the Worldly to deal with artifacts and enchantments, and Midnight Oil is another control-ish type card, gives us another repeatable card advantage engine to keep up with slower control decks with lots of counters and removal. And that is white-black Aristocats for a standard. And that's our budget magic deck for this week. So I think this deck is super sweet. I've had a lot of fun playing with it. It might look a little bit janky, and that was my first thought when I saw the Hidden Stockpile Anointed Procession synergy. But once you actually start playing with it, it's super strong, and a lot of decks just don't have an answer, and it feels like you're just winning the game. There is some downside. The cards can be high variance. Anointed Procession obviously doesn't do anything on its own, but we have a lot of ways to support that synergy. A lot of sacrifice outlets, a lot of creatures that keep coming back, so we usually can support those cards well and make them into just really devastating, grindy, hard to deal with finishers. Plus, it's really nice to have this random combo kill, so we always have a chance that we just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, make a ton of tokens, drain our opponent out of the game with Cutthroat, sacking things to Yahenni. We can also steal free wins with Bontu, just being such a big menacing threat and having so many ways to turn it on. So I think the deck's really sweet. I've had a ton of fun playing it. I think it's fairly competitive. I know it might look janky on paper, but once you see how it plays, I think you'll like it. So anyway, that's our Budget Magic deck for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free, and you can find the next video in the playlist right here.